Historic resources often feel imprisoned behind the walls of museums, but they do not have to be. Kalev Literu has uploaded over 5 million historic images to Flickr from the Internet Archive Organization's library, enabling anyone to get a glimpse of the past. Many of these images predate the internet by over 500 years, yet somehow we can all easily access them. By merely passing through a computer, these images gain a new property: digital. But what makes them have this property? What does digital even mean, and how does its presence impact our ability to access media? Our class asked these questions on the second day, but none of us settled on one definition. Most of us used words like media, people, and technology, but after the more obvious choices have been taken, our definitions diverged. The only thing we could agree on by the end of class was that digital relies on many more factors than just association with a computer. Apparently, definitions are not as simple as they seem. Philosopher Michel Foucault agrees with that very premise to the extent in which you could boil down the entire preface to his book The Order of Things just to definitions are hard. He relates order to utopia, a perfect, unachievable world in which everything is clearly defined and set in its place. Nothing in a utopia is hard to define. Nothing is ever ambiguous. When everything is in its place, the world is perfect. Utopia is exactly the type of world that Niantic and Nintendo try to build in Pokemon Go, in which players walk to real locations and catch digital animals on their phones in real time. Our group enjoyed playing the game, but the lack of scooter-accessible ramps made exploring the digital utopia extremely difficult. We could not leave Retiner as easily as other groups, and while our discussion was very productive, insightful, and interesting, our game was not. Upon further analysis, we realized that the game is not equal for everyone. Niantic, being operated by white male developers, assumed a level of real-life utopia that simply does not exist for everyone. People can walk anywhere freely in Pokemon. Not everyone can in real life. Services are free in Pokemon. Not everyone can afford cell service in real life. And as a result, features of the game arbitrarily favor power groups. Real life's heterotopia is the opposite of Pokemon's utopia. Strange, poorly defined, what Foucault claims will desiccate speech, stop words in their tracks, contest the very possibility of grammar at its source. Everything in a utopia is organized, orderly, and perfect. A heterotopia is not. The structured nature of our language makes real life's lack of structure indescribably confusing. We cannot define everything, and it angers us. Niantic's digital utopia is built on a foundation of real-life heterotopia, ostracizing differently abled and poor individuals. Our group's frustration arose from Niantic's trying to impose structure where it simply does not exist. When we try to impose a rigid definition on the digital, we encounter similar issues. Some media is obviously digital, but other media blurs the lines between digital and analog. The best way to define the digital is to have a large group of people agree on what it means. Think of the digital like a country. Countries are characterized by their borders, their leaders, and their symbols. But borders shift, leaders change, and symbols get redesigned without the country itself changing. Defining the digital is similar because technology changes without rendering something not digital. Digital media in 2018 is very different than early digital media, but it still has that same digital property. However, as the way we access digital media changes over time, so does meaning. While viewing an image from Literu's Flickr page provides a similar experience to seeing it in a book, other forms of media become grossly warped. For instance, when we read Johnny Mnemonic, I was thrilled by the intricate cyberpunk world building. The story was captivating, but producers ripped Gibson's entertaining story into a Frankenstein's monster of a film. Every dollar came with another writing burden until the film sunk to an abysmal 13% on Rotten Tomatoes. Don't get me wrong, I thoroughly enjoy watching horrible movies. I've seen Food Fight 5 times. I've viewed the Emoji Movie in theaters, and I wrote a significant part of my Common App essay about Brazilian animation and underfunded horror films. But something about seeing such an enjoyable short story reduced to a confusing mess made the experience painful and infuriating. To make matters worse, I slept through my alarm on the last day of the screening, had to watch the last half hour in 360p on YouTube. The experience was far from pleasant. It was frustrating. Every time the message was moved from one media to another, from book to poorly formatted PDF to film to low-resolution video, the message and the definition of the pieces shifted. Thus, the technology that people use to access messages defines the digital. Without people's accessing media, digital as a property is useless, which is why maximizing access to digital media is so critical. If, for instance, Pokemon Go continues to favor affluent communities, the digital suffers as a result, whether the media is film, games, or just archived images.